flute is considered one of the oldest woodwind instruments, it can also be considered one of the oldest pitched instruments. Early flutes were made out of materials like stone, clay, bamboo, and even bones. The earliest flutes were played like a recorder, vertically. However, in about the Middle Ages or the Renaissance period, they became transverse flutes, where they were played horizontally. While flutes were growing in popularity, they weren't common to find in anything other than solo repertoire. This is because the holes in them were spaced differently depending on the player and their hand size. While various inventions came out to make the flute easier to play using a key system, it wasn't really caught on until about 1782 when the German flute came to popularity. This flute had 8 keys and was able to be played by anyone of any hand size. While adjusting to a key mechanism made playing easier, intonation was still a problem. Baroque flutes tried to remedy this by adding a cork stopper in the head joint, but this was not sufficient enough. Musicians began experimenting with dividing the flute into several sections, such as splitting the head joint, body, or foot joint. Again, due to the weak notes in the chromaticism, the flute was continually altered, experimenting with different keys and adding different tone holes. In 1806, Claude Lorette patented a new style of flute using mechanical joints made out of silver. This would prevent the keys from shifting. Then in 1808, Reverend Frederick Nolan designed the idea of an open standing key for both opening and closing holes, greatly improving the intonation of the flute. In 1808, George Miller designed a flute made of metal for the military fife, which is now the most common material we use for flutes today. In the 1820s, Theobald Boehm began experimenting with the design of the Baroque flute. He added tuning slides, hardened gold springs, and mounting keys screwed into pillars. The finger holes were then shifted and widened. Because of this, meant players could no longer reach the holes, let alone cover them, so additional keys were added. To further increase the tuning chromaticism of the flute, they were given 14 tone holes and were able to be played with 9 fingers due to the keys. Although since flutes continually were, and still are, altered, Boehm is still one of the most credited influencers for the modern flute design.